me say good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio, 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Those of you viewing GBN TV, whether you're viewing Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20, good morning and welcome. It's to the point, it's Thursday, the 12th day of June, 2025. Good morning also to those of you via our social media platforms, whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning to you. Thanks for being with us this morning. I'm your host, GT. And this morning, my guests, of course, are from the Grenada Child Protection Authority. Hope I get it right. It's the Grenada Child Protection Authority or just Child Protection Authority? Either or, it doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
Either or, it doesn't matter. Let me say good morning to both of my guests this morning. I already told them I'm going to deal with a first name basis to start, but they will say their correct names. But so I'll let them, when we end the conversation, we'll do the first name. Introduce yourself, my dear. Good morning.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for having us here this morning. My name is Shirley Ann Edwards O'Neill, and I am the Operations Supervisor at Child Protection Authority.
Okay.
Pleasant morning, everyone. I am Sabrina Sanderson Plenty. I am the Supervisor for the Western Division Investigative Unit at the Authority.
All right. Well, welcome both of you once again. So as I mentioned, I would Shirley Ann and Sabrina. Good morning and welcome. So this morning, here for the child we'll be talking about, of course, our main focus will be the Act of the Child Protection Authority. That's probably going to be our main focus of the conversation this morning. But I want to kick it off the conversation by starting, of course, there probably is a listener or a viewer out there who's saying, I'm always hearing about the Child Protection Authority. Tell us about the sole purpose of the Child Protection Authority. What do the Child Protection Authority actually do? Who's going to take up that particular mantle there?
Okay, so Child Protection Authority came into effect in 2010 following the Child Protection and Adoption Act, which was implemented.
All right.
And so even though the act came into 2010, CPA really came into being, or the act really got implemented in 2011. So you'd realize now we're celebrating 15 years.
15 years, all right.
So yes, that's hovering around. Child Protection Authority really came into being to protect our children. We noticed the lack in services in law for the protection of children from all forms of abuse, and so we are the sole agency in Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique that focuses on all forms of child abuse against children.
So that's really in a nutshell what the Child Protection actually do. Now, you mentioned that you are the sole, of course, of body that deals with child protection in Grenada. How do you go about doing that? Of course, protecting children as a whole. How does the whole process start?
Okay, so at the authority we have different departments.
Yes.
And we start from intake. We do have an intake officer, and Mrs. Plenty or Sabrina would delve into the different departments or just highlight the different departments. And so the intake officer would be responsible for all of the referrals that come in. When we say referrals, we mean be it calls, be it walk-ins, be it persons sending messages via the social media, be it any of our stakeholder bodies, be it GBN, whoever have a concern, be it a child who is at risk of being abused or a child who is actually being abused, they would get that information. Once we get that information, it's entered into our new case management system, Primero, that was recently launched. And then we have our investigating officers going out and do the investigation.
The investigation, a report has been made, and of course, before I get Sabrina to talk to me more about the departments, I just want to get a little highlight on this. A report has been made. Someone in a particular community noticed a child has been abused or something of the nature that they're not happy with. It always begins with somebody not happy about something they've seen with a child. I'm assuming that's the process where it starts. The investigation starts. Usually where does it go from there?
The investigation can take many turns. One, the investigation can prove that the report was malicious, and the case will be terminated or closed immediately once we prove that this was a malicious intent. If we realize that the case is, or the facts, the evidence, is factual, then it can take different turns based on the nature of the case, and the family is able to be worked with. We can work with the family to provide them with the relevant services. one of the things that we do is advocacy. So we do not have all of the services available, but we can link them through our referral pathways.
All right, maybe you go to if that particular family or individual may need to be prosecuted
or housing,
all of these
right.
things. Okay.
We may have instances where we may have to remove the child. Let's say an instance where the alleged perpetrator is in the household and the other parent may not want that perpetrator to leave the household.
Okay.
While we do not want to re-traumatize that child, it may become necessary for us to remove that child from that situation, be placed in a safe environment, and then we go to the High Court to apply for a care and protection order. While all of this is happening, we work with the child and the family. Again, once the family is receptive to intervention, and once we remove a child, we work to ensure that reunification happens at the most in the shortest order, I should say.
All right. You focus a whole lot on abuse. What are some of the other cases that the child protection deal with? Is it just basically child abuse only?
You want to answer?
Okay, so yes, we are set up directly to deal with abuse of children, but what we have noticed over the years, we have been dealing with a lot of other matters within the family.
Okay.
So we have cases apart from the physical, the sexual abuse, the abandonment and neglect. We have cases where it is that to do with suicidal ideation. We have cyberbullying. We have issues with classification of behavioral issues, parenting difficulties. You know, we try our best to help, right? Because while we are in the protection and we are for doing interventions, we try our best to see how it is that we can be proactive.
Yes.
So even though the cases may come underneath a different classification and there may not necessarily be abuse happening, okay, we may see situations where it is that child is having underlying issues in terms of cyberbullying. There are behavioral issues that may stem from, the parents' inability to effectively parent and co-parenting issues. We also handle some of the custody issues. Right, and even though that is not within our mandate based on the Child Protection Adoption Act, we still assist and we do necessary referrals.
All right. You were supposed to talk to me about some of the departments within the Child Protection Authority. Talk to me about those departments.
Okay, so as Miss Shirley said, it feels so strange calling by first name.
I know.
Right, so as Shirley would have stated, intake, yes, because everything begins with a report.
Okay.
The only how that we can go out there and do intervention, do the groundwork, do the investigation, a report must come in. So that is where we have the intake department, okay, that processes all reports. After intake processes those reports, it comes to the investigation team. Right? That is the team that goes on the ground. We are the ones that go out there. We go to the schools, we go to the communities, we go to the families, different organizations and entities that child or family may have interacted with to get a better sense of what exactly is happening. Yeah. To see, first of all, if there is any proof, if there is any evidence, if there is any merit to that report.
Reported, okay.
Right, because we do know that sometimes there are malicious reports. Yeah. But as we usually say to the parents, because oftentimes when persons see CPA come, you come to remove my child, right? Because of, the stigma that is there based on some persons' perceived, experiences and so forth. But we always tell them the only how we can get through this is if we actually come together. We are here because we got a report. Yeah. Is the report true or not? If it is that you're in need of help, the only how that CPA can help you is if we know what's going on. So once the investigation is done and we would have get a better understanding as to what exactly is happening and that case needs to go further, if there is a need for referrals, we refer to different agencies. Sometimes we go into the home based on the abuse, and a report might come in that there is physical abuse in the home, right? And upon investigating the case, we realize that there are so many underlying circumstances. It's a single parent home. Mom is unemployed. The father or the fathers are not actively involved in the children's life. The children are not attending school regularly. see those and we make the report, but why is it? The source of income is not there. Mom is frustrated because she has so many mouths to feed and not enough resources, to provide. So we do understand when we go in that we pick up a lot of other situations. So that's why we refer. We link with the different organizations. There may be community organizations, different church groups, different programs in the school, and we link them to those organizations. And that's when the case moves from the investigation department to other departments.
Okay.
So it will go on to the court department, where it is that we have officers in the court that works along with children that have ongoing court matters. So they work along with those children and the family, make sure they get the necessary intervention and support that they need. We have the family support unit that works along with the children in ensuring that the referrals that we make during the investigative process are actually followed through.
Okay.
To make sure the seed program is registered, the uniform assistance, housing, different things. We follow through on that. We have the alternative care department that works along with children that, due to the investigative procedure, they had to be removed for the continued
Usually
safety.
that's the final option, more or less, sometimes.
That's the last resort.
Yeah.
And removal is something that we don't take pride in doing, because it is never Child Protection's intention to cause any further trauma to a child or to disrupt a child from their normal place of living. However, it becomes necessary when that child's continued safety is its placed at risk. And we have so many cases right now where it is that there are removals, the removals are necessary, and we have to try our best to see, given the limited resources that we have, because we function, as we know, at a deficit, right? And we have the human resource, we have the zeal, we have the willingness to work, and as a third world country functioning with limited resources, there is only so much that we can do when we remove children, and that's why I put a little pinch in here. That's why we call for foster carers,
yes,
right? So just to put that out there.
All right. We're due for our first break. Is there something you want to chat about?
I was just going to say she forgot one of our most important departments. That's the psychological assessment and treatment team, also known as a counseling unit. That is one of our backbones, that persons, children as well as parents, we don't just remove or we don't just go into and do investigation, but we also do counseling and therapeutic services.
And that is a very important department, sometimes to sit down and analyze what is going on with that individual or what is going on with the family per se, having that conversation. It always starts with a conversation,
Yes.
Having that conversation and understanding what's the issue that is really getting it to the level that it has gotten to, that's so true. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have much more to talk about. Stay with us, folks, on the Point Classic Radio GBN TV. We'll be right back after the break. Don't touch it down.
GBN family, we've got a brand new home on Facebook and you need to be there. Follow us now on Facebook at Grenada Broadcasting Network -GBN. Stay updated with the latest news, sports, entertainment, and everything Grenada. Don't miss out. Like, follow, and share. Grenada Broadcasting Network. Stay informed. Stay ahead. First with the news. Fast with the updates.
The Mass officially starts now as Spice Mass Cooperation together with Aura Caribbean is turning up the thing all the way up with Carnival City Fusion Thursdays. It all kicks off on Thursday, May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. We're bringing the vibes to the Port Louis lawn. Gates open 7 p.m. Action starts 8 p.m. Get ready for live performances from your favorite soca, groovy, and calypso artists, plus the sweet sounds of steel band, live bands, and all the mass elements you love. Veko, Jab Jab, Shortney, Mokojumbi, Apache, and more. It's more than a line. It's a whole carnival experience. So grab your crew, bring the energy, and come let's celebrate where culture meets pure excitement. Carnival City Fusion Thursdays, Port Louis Lawn, beginning May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. Come, let's play a mass, cause the thing start.
Welcome back once again, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Folks, with me this morning, you have some folks representing the Grenada Child Protection Authority. Of course, you have Miss Shirley and of course, Sabrina with me this morning once again. And welcome back to both of you. We ended the conversation in a previous segment when we were speaking and we ended talking about counseling. I want to expand on that a wee bit because it's important that folks understand the reason why counseling gets involved. Because it's also, it leads to a solution. Most of the times it leads to a solution, how we can solve this. And some folks coming together and talking about the issues or problem that they're experiencing, or why this child this child was reported and so forth. So that conversation starts. The importance of counseling. I want to, not sure which one of you want to start a conversation in that way. The importance of counseling and why the Child Protection Authority pays a lot of attention to counseling.
Thank you so much for that. Similarly to how the body functions, one may say the hand cannot function without the head, or the tongue cannot function without the teeth, and so at the authority we felt it important to have a department that focused on the healing aspect for our children. Over the years, we were referring our clients to various departments for support. And we recognize that these departments, for example, Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic, the Ministry of Social Development, they also have their own clients that they have to take care of.
But sometimes it's not what they actually, that particular subject matter needs.
Right. Yes. But apart from that, because of the number of clients, the waiting list may be very long.
Yeah.
And so we felt it necessary at the Child Protection Authority to introduce a department that focuses solely on our clients.
Okay.
And so our children are able to go in and engage our counselors. The counselors they either do play therapy, they do assessments to know the intervention needs, they do cognitive behavioral therapy, they do different aspects of the counseling with the children. There may be times that they see it necessary to include the parents or family members to come together, because what you do not want is to walk on your left hand and your right hand is still doing something different. You may walk with the child and the child goes back home and you're seeing the changes with the child, but the parent is still at that stage. And so it is important to pull everybody together. There are times that the children, the counselors would say, okay, 10 sessions would be enough for that child, or 20 sessions, it depends on. But the fact is that they are there to listen and to get that help that is necessary. It is also important and we're happy to report that at almost every of our offices we do have counselors stationed. So we do have a counselor at our Guelph office, we do have a counselor at our Grenville office, we do have counselors at our St. George's Walk-in Center, and to know that they're all licensed counselors.
Okay. Tell me, cooperation plays a big part of this, especially family members and so forth, especially for maybe if it's a child or maybe just the family in general that need the counsel. How is the cooperation? How is the dealing with the cooperation, especially in terms of folks who are really interested and want to have the matter resolved, especially from a counseling point of view?
Oftentimes you have families that you have to really go into over and over, and it takes a lot, especially from the investigation team and the family intervention. And so hence the reason I bring the analogy at first to say that the body, one depends on the other. When you go to the parents, you have to encourage them to have the buy-in and see the benefits of counseling. Oftentimes you hear the myth that counseling is just going and tell people my business, but that is not the goal of counseling. Counseling is to help you find a way to either cope and to have positive resilience to your situation, develop coping skills, coping mechanisms. And so there are some persons, you may have the buy-in, they are remorseful of the situation, they want the help and they would be willing to. There are others who do not accept that what is happening is wrong, or do not see an issue with what is happening, and so they would be not wanting to get the counseling. Again, you have those who are mandated by the court and so they would come in, but then you still have this level of resilience resistance. Sorry,
they feel they're not doing it on their own accord.
They're not doing it on their own. So it goes both ways, based on the needs and based on the perception that that individual who has to get that intervention. It is important to say that a lot of persons see, as Sabrina indicated, they see Child Protection Authority as a removal agency. And so before you come, it doesn't matter what service you may try to offer, they refuse.
From the establishment of the council and that particular department, what are some of the feedback you've been receiving? Maybe there's some success stories that you may want to share. Are there anything you want to feature this morning?
While I am not attached directly to the department, I must say that we've seen changes. We've seen persons that would have gone through Child Protection Authority, would have benefited from counseling. Today, there's persons who are university graduates. There's persons who are working in various sectors. There's persons who, when we go out there in the community, would also go out to say, this is what I have experienced, and if it worked for me, it can work for you. So we do have success stories out there. Not everybody would like to go out and express, but we do know that persons do call in and say, we are grateful. We've been. I mean,
your intervention has certainly made a difference for them. A whole lot for them.
Yes.
So some of the services that the department offer. Talk to me about that. Some of the services.
In terms of the counseling department?
Yeah, the counseling department.
Okay. So apart from the one-on-one therapeutic sessions, one of the things that the counseling department also engages in from time to time is the group sessions. Some of the counselors do facilitate group therapy. There are also occasions where it is that we will go to different business places and entities, to just give a better understanding and to educate, because we believe that persons who are educated are empowered.
Yes.
And once you're empowered, it would push resilience further. So they will go there and they will do different presentations, basically encouraging persons and educating persons what exactly are therapeutic interventions and why it is needed, so that the myth and the stigma that is attached to counseling will be slowly eroded, because most persons believe if I go to counseling, then something is wrong with me mentally, I'm sick. So they attach it to mental health issues, and even that in itself is a separate topic, because to have mental health issues does not necessarily mean that you need to be placed on medication or that you have erratic behaviors, because our mental health is very important, right? So I do know that the counseling department does a lot of that. I would just use this opportunity as well to encourage parents out there, those that are listening. When you call on to the authority and we hook the children up, we register the children for counseling. One of the things that we also identify as a loophole and a weakness is that some of the parents do not encourage the children to follow through with the sessions. Yeah. So while they may have the initial intake where the parents need to sign, because everything begins with consent when it comes to children. So the parents would have to come in and do the initial intake to sign the necessary consent form, giving the authority, the permission to actually have those sessions with the children. And we see that some parents may refuse to come all together, and those that come, sometimes they do not send their children to the sessions, and they expect the change behavior, but Child Protection Authority cannot do it alone.
I understand where you're coming from, but you spoke about where parents are not encouraging. So these are the youngsters who are you're speaking about directly, are the ones, or we say the trouble individuals. Maybe you want to say that, well, the runaways and so forth. Those are the ones you speak of where the counseling is involved for them, but their parents are not encouraging them to come to those
In some instances, it's based on the age. Yeah. So we have cases where it is that the children, let's say within the primary school ages, where it is that they depend heavily on supervision. And based on where it is that their school is located, sometimes we do, the counselors, try to schedule the sessions after school so that there is no interruption in the educational process. And we will see there are times that the children don't come to the sessions. And sometimes the counselors even go as far as providing transportation fees just to ensure that the children come to the sessions, and they don't happen. And there are times, when we look at the older children, the teenagers and the preteens, we do know that puberty is already a stage of trauma, crisis, all these things happening there. They're trying to find their identity. And when it is, you see that children have unresolved trauma and they're going through that stage, we do not know exactly what is going on with the children. So we try our best to see what type of intervention. Of course, sometimes, around that teenage age, they will say they may not want it, initially they may not be willing, but we encourage the parents, don't give up. Do not give up. Continue to encourage them, be there. I won't call them troubled children, but they are just children that are on the road to recovery, because the behavior is just a symptom to an underlying issue that was never dealt with.
As some folks, they get to that rebellious age. You understand? They always say when they get to that rebellious age, so they feel, well, I'm thinking on my own for some reason. Some of them may say that I'm thinking. I've spoken to the youngsters who feel like, I think I'm big enough to be on my own, even though they don't have a job, and they're still dependent on their parents, but they just feel I can do what I do
the
for
need
myself.
For independence.
Following the wrong peers. You understand? And so forth. That leads to those issues, becoming a problem.
Yes. It does happen, and it's sad. But I want us to look at it from a holistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Because often at the times when we see on social media and we see it in our societies, the issues that are happening with children, our initial thing is let's play the blame game. Yeah. Let us blame someone. And often at the times, rather than looking in the mirror and looking within ourselves to see what exactly can I do to contribute to the solution and not the problem, we fail to do that. So we always point fingers and say the government is supposed to do that, the child protection agencies are supposed to do that, but where are the parents? Where are the parents in terms of what is your legal responsibility for your minor and towards your minor in ensuring that since conception you provide for them a safe and adequate environment that they can thrive? And we do know that certain value systems in society are flawed, and that's why we encourage parents. It takes a village. And you have to remember that what you put in is what you're going to get out. Children are like sponges.
But there are issues sometimes where the parents cannot be blamed 100%. I will understand. You may different thoughts to me from that.
It is.
There are parents who may put their best out in terms of offering everything that son or daughter needs. You understand? Not just giving them what they want, but making sure that if they need to be educated, education is provided for them. Whatever they need in the home is provided. But sometimes that individual just feel, I want to do my own thing. You understand? And you mentioned that, where is the parent? But some of the parents are there, but sometimes it gets to a stage where the parents, it just becomes so overwhelmed for them that they feel, well, what more can I do? And I guess that's where the Child Protection Authority comes in. That's where they should be making that call then.
Right, yeah. And we understand that and we hear you. We do agree, and that's the reason why we provide support.
Yes.
And so we have been asking persons to come on board with us as we start our positive parenting program.
Yeah.
And we would do the forms. We try to have it at the community level. And these are the parents that we're looking for to give you skills, techniques on how to help in that parenting capacity, especially when you become overwhelmed. How to get that, that new vibe, that new energy.
Yeah.
And so those of you who are interested, please reach out to us. You can engage the family support supervisor, that's Mrs. Alana Hali Batiste, and she would guide in terms of when we would start the next parenting cycle and what village we're going into.
I thought that come to mind, because does the authority do those sessions where they don't always wait on that call? Go out to the communities and have conversation with individuals within the communities to find out what's going on with the individual? Or do you always just wait on that call of someone reporting, well, there's an issue taking place there's a department that deals with that specifically, that just goes to communities where they may know of issues of that nature taking place?
I'm happy that you said that. One of the things that we planned for this year as CPA turns 15 is to choose 3 communities in every parish that we think that is most vulnerable, for want of a better word, and we go in and set up a booth. We have an activity and where persons can come out. We have the different departments expressing, what we do and how we can provide help. We've completed in St. Andrew, and we're Last weekend we were at Rose Hill in St. Patrick. We've also been to different communities in St. David. So we put it out there. We're coming into the communities. The intention is to go to every parish, including Carrico and Pittimatnik, throughout that 1 year span. We started May this year and we're going up to May of next year.
You know, I said that, going on because, sometimes there are parents or guardians who are just hesitant to make that call. There may be individuals within the community who are hesitant also to make that call because of what they see happening. Yes. So if the authority could go out to these communities and get a sense of what is taking place other than just waiting for someone or till it get to an escalated level where there's nothing much you can do than to maybe get the court involved and all the things when it could have been tapped at an early stage, and wrapped up. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want us to focus a wee bit on the Child Protection Authority Act. Share some details in relation to that when we come back after the break. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point, Classic Radio GBN TV. We coming right back after the break. Don't touch it out.
Like a freestyle, the lifeblood flowing mile by mile. It's legacy, a beat that don't stop like Bob Marley said. One love on top. The sewage water out of sight, but it's always wrong. Don't lose the light. From factories and wells so deep, corals, mangroves and fish they weep. Green water for the garden, keep it green. Save the cash and the earth gets clean. We use the water with a mindful mind. It's out of sight but never far behind. In nature, the answers always flow. Like water running pure, the cycle grows. It renews itself, same drop, same beat. It's all good, man, you got the heat. Water flow. No clean water, no pipes they grow. Protect our water, protect our future.
Time to go.
The Mass officially starts now as Spice Mass Cooperation together with Aura Caribbean is turning up the thing all the way up with Carnival City Fusion Thursdays. It all kicks off on Thursday, May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. We're bringing the vibes to the Port Louis lawn. Gates open 7 p.m. Action starts 8 p.m. Get ready for live performances from your favorite soca, groovy and calypso artists, plus the sweet sounds of steel band, live bands, and all the mass elements you love. Veko, Jab Jab, Short Knee, Moko Jumbi, Apache, and more. It's more than a line. It's a whole carnival experience. So grab your crew, bring the energy, and come let's celebrate where culture meets pure excitement. Carnival City Fusion Thursdays, Port Louis Lawn, beginning May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. Come, let's play a mass, cause the thing starts.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Good morning to those of you via our social media platforms. Also, good morning to you, and thanks for being with us this morning. Of course, to my guests, welcome back. Before the break, I did mention I want us to talk about the Child Protection Authority Act. You said it was, of course, it's 15 years of the Child Protection Authority. Was it sometime in 2010? I hope I'm right about that. The act was enacted, as they would say. Tell us a wee bit about the act, and what does the act really say that folks, listeners and viewers, they should know about? You want to grab it for me?
Okay, so as Shirley stated earlier, the Child Protection Adoption Act, which is the name for it, was established in 2010, and the cabinet saw it fit that it was important to pass a legislation that speaks directly to the nation's children as it regards to the care and protection, and it also deals with the adoption. Okay. Right? So with the Child Protection Adoption Act, there are numerous sections. However, two of the most important parts that we're going to cover here today is the investigation part and the part for mandatory reporting.
All right.
Section 27 of the Child Protection Adoption Act speaks largely to mandatory reporting. Who are the persons that are obligated by law to report? And when we speak of that, we're speaking of persons that have direct contact with that child for specific period during that day. So we're speaking of teachers, we speak of counselors, social workers, police officers, doctors, nurses. You know, once you would have had contact with that child and you see, you may not have the evidence, you may not have all the facts, but once you suspect that that child is at risk of being abused or their safety, you know, is a concern, you are obligated by law to report that. When we go to the schools and we speak to the teachers, part of that in which we deal with is educating these persons in terms of what are their legal responsibilities.
Yes. If individuals do not pick up on that responsibility, still deal with it of mandatory reporting. Individuals, you spoke a lot about teachers and so forth, but if they notice, something has to be noticed first of all. You have to notice there's a difference in that child's behavior. You know, and you said, well, this, you know, John is not being the John that he was 6 months ago. And recently I've noticed a difference in his pattern of behavior, and he's probably now keeping more to himself and stuff like that. I'm assuming she will have a conversation with him first before it leads to coming to the Child Protection Authority. I'm assuming that may be the stages it will have to go through. Something of that nature is occurring, but they didn't report. What does the Child Protection Authority do now? Maybe that has escalated to a different level, and the observation was not brought to the attention of the Child Protection Authority in an early stage, especially from the school point. What happens there?
Okay, so we have supporting policies apart from our act. And is the National Child Abuse Protocol. The protocol speaks to, for example, in this case, we're speaking of teachers, the steps that should be taken in terms of reporting. So the teacher ideally should report to their principal or the head of their school their observations. And as such, they should report to us. If not, our act also speaks to the penalties that one may face for failing to report a matter where a child may be at risk of abuse. That person can be fined $3,000 or up to 5 months in prison. But it goes a little further. We, in Grenada, and I guess throughout the Caribbean, most pieces of legislation don't work in silos. And so the amendment of the criminal code also speaks to persons who failing to report any child abuse. And the good thing about the criminal code, it don't just speak to professionals who work with children, but it can also include parents. Okay. And in the criminal code, the penalties in terms of imprisonment or the fine is even steeper than that of the Child Protection and Adoption Act.
Okay, so you're saying a parent knows that, you know, their son or daughter has been abused within their household, fails to report it, they could be faced serious penalties for that.
Yes, under the criminal code.
Under the criminal code.
And we've had persons who were faced with penalties before. Once we have the evidence, once we can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this actually is happening, the matter goes to court and at the magistracy level, and they can be charged or they can be fined and confined.
Right. And I'm assuming that child or children within that family may be removed depending on the severity of the issues that have been taking place.
Yes.
Yeah. There's other part of the act you were speaking about. Let's hear that. We spoke about the mandatory reporting. What's other part of the act that there seems to be we need to mention on?
So one of the most important parts is the investigation.
Investigation, yes.
Right? How investigations are done and how investigations are carried out. the Child Protection Adoption Act is basically like the Bible, the manual of Child Protection Authority. And often other times when it is that the investigative officers go out into the field, there are times that we would get some resistance from different schools and different organizations and even families. But the Child Protection Adoption Act, under the investigation section, it gives the child protection officer all privileges over the child. That the child protection officer can enter any dwelling place or any place that a child resides that they believe that that child is at risk. So we have where it is that we can go into the schools. Most teachers and different professionals and persons believe that in order for a social worker or a child protection officer, typically, to speak to my child, they need my consent. Yeah. But the Child Protection Adoption Act does not say that. Yeah. The Child Protection Adoption Act says that a child protection officer has all rights to engage a child. Because at the end of the day, our goal is to protect. Yeah. We are not here to come in like, okay, to say we are the authority, with the big boots, and we are here to do X, Y, and Z. But in ensuring that child is protected, we have to use wisdom. And that act provides the opportunity for us to go about doing our job in the safest way possible. Because sometimes the perpetrators are those that may need us to ask them for permission. So what happened in a case where it is that where the child resides, that carer or that parent are the perpetrators involved? Do we go to them first? We always try our best based on the investigation and based on the report that comes in. We do our initial assessment to determine a plan of action, and based on the details that are involved, we will go to the school, because the school is the most neutral environment that a child occupies on a daily basis. Parents are at work or at home or different places, so we go to the school to get that unbiased view of the child, where it is that child would be feel safe to say, this is exactly what's going on at home, this is exactly what's happening to me at school, because it's not only home that's the problem. It could be on the bus, it could be somebody in the community. So under the investigation section of the Act, the child protection officers have that, that opportunity and have that authority to engage a child without the parent consent. We also do medicals, whatever needs to be done. So often at the times when it is that initial investigation, that initial contact, based on the information that is revealed there may need to be a need to get the police involved, and a statement would need to be obtained. We do not need the parent consent for those things, right? Because all that is part of the investigation process in ensuring also in the advocacy role that child gets that justice, and to ensure that the police investigation goes as smoothly as possible. So we assume responsibility for that child the moment we begin contact.
It's even back to a statement you make in terms of the resistance that may be offered by a particular parent who may be the key perpetrator against that child. And you said you have the right to enter the home. I mean, wouldn't there be police is needed or something like that? I don't expect Shirley to just walk into somebody's place and feel, well, I'm from the Child Protection Authority, I'm coming into your home. I don't think it's easy as that, even though you have the right of the act or the law that on your side. But there are parents who want to put up a resistance. Anybody, it's in here, right? Anybody's going to fight back and say, well, no. So I'm assuming the police will involve if it needs to get to that stage where you have to visit the home. You understand? You maybe try to have that initial conversation when you realize you're not getting anywhere. Because I understand that everything goes in stages. You start with a conversation, you will try to be as amicable as you can and polite as you can with a parent, whoever you have to have that conversation with first. And then it will reach a stage where they start to escalate. And it leads where have to visit the home and start having that coming home and kind of, you say, to see for yourself part of what's taking place in the home. And I guess that's where the police and so forth will get involved.
So it takes two phases. When we say the Act says that you have that right, it means that you come to the yard, you call out the parents, this is what we're here for. It's not a situation where we say, can I make an appointment to come to your home? So we can show up at your home to engage you as part of the process. This is why we're here. We identify ourselves. We do have identification cards. We identify ourselves. We tell you the allegation. It's always an allegation. And we say why we're here. if we know based on the allegation that we've started the process and we know that it's likely that you are going to be defiant, or it's a situation where we might be putting ourselves at risk, the Act also says that it is our right to request the services of any police officer to accompany us into that home. If it's a situation where we get a call and say there's a 3-year-old crying inside that house and we saw parents left 2 hours ago, we get that police officer and we can go into that premises. So it's on those terms we say that we can enter without the permission.
Because you know somebody may always misinterpret the option when you read, hey, I can just come into somebody's home like that. You understand? Without the proper warranting and so forth. That is the all right. Anything else you want to chime in on that? Because we take a break and then we invite our listeners and viewers. If you do have a question or two you may like to ask our guests, anything you want to chime in before we take that wrap?
Yes, one of the things I wanted to say as well, oftentimes, especially when it comes to the private schools on island, oftentimes these schools believe that they're not mandated by the Ministry of Education and they're an exception to the Child Protection and Adoption Act. And so there are times when and it's not all of the schools, there are times when we try to get into the schools to engage the children, that they would leave us outside and call the parents first, and it becomes a unsavory situation.
Contention bills right there.
Yes. It's just to note that the Act also says that we can remove a child from the current circumstances. So, for example, the current environment, get them to a place of safety, do the investigation, and bring them back. So if we realize the school or anywhere is not safe for us to do the investigation, we can take that child, carry that child to the nearest police station, do the interview, and bring them back. Just to let the public know, the Act is online on the government legal affairs website. They can go there, download it, read it, so that they can have better knowledge. Investigation and assessment is under Section 30. That's Part 4 of the Act.
We're due for the break. Let's take that break. When we come back, once again, listeners and viewers, if you do have a question or two you may like to ask our guests, feel free to do so. 435-2041. You have double options of calling in. You have the WhatsApp 435-2041, the same number, or the direct line 435-2041. We'll be right back after the break. Don't touch your dial.
Looking to take your business to new heights? Advertise with GPN on our social media platforms and get noticed by our 138,000 plus followers. Reach a massive engaged audience ready to connect with your brand. No matter your business size, GPN is here to help you grow. Contact us today at admin@gpn.gd or WhatsApp 407-8458 to get started.
I want to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it, and relax it. Eliminate violence.
welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again. I did mention before the break that, of course, if you do have a question or two that you may like to ask my guest this morning from the Child Protection Authority in reference to all that we spoke about thus far, and you may do have some concerns in terms of maybe the act or so, if you want to, I'm assuming they will be able to answer you. A referral can be made also in terms to get it through. 435-2041. The lines are open to you if you do have a question or two. Something we didn't delve in too much as yet while we were in the previous segments of the program. It's important for foster parenting, and I'm sure it's a concern that you would like to speak about or give some encouragement to folks who may be interested, or folks who may never thought of doing it. Let's hear about that while we await the calls that come in.
Okay, so we have in the alternative care department at the authority, we do have kinship placement. That's where children are placed with family members. Mm-hmm. We do have foster care. That's where we have our citizens who want to give back in terms of their time, in terms of their expertise, and we have residential care. Oftentimes we try to place children based on their needs. So if we do a removal, we try to place that child based on their needs in an appropriate placement. And so we often find placing them back in a family setting would be less traumatic. Okay. I want you to stick a pin there for we have a call. Let's entertain the call, and we probably could do it in when we summarize at the end of the show. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, morning. Good morning to you. I enjoy the program. I'm listening to the program. But I've not heard a mention of the people who face the brunt of the problem, which are the caregivers. Mm-hmm. They go through embarrassment every day, because I am part of this. Even the security, they go through the part of it. Now these children, then they are, like the lady said, they are trying to just indicate a problem and need help. You understand? And there's a point was made, but I want that point to be taken seriously. Parents who know what is going on, what is happening in their home, and denying it. Something seriously supposed to be done about that. Something drastic had to be done. Because, okay, I listen to the word run away. Now, if a child run away at the age of 12 or 13, I'm going to our next home, and somebody harbor them to be in that home. They're supposed to be charged. Are you there?
Yeah, caller, we listening to you. You're
supposed to be charged unless that child in real danger. And if the child in real danger, carry the child to the police. Why take a child? Why as you see a 13-year-old coming to your son who is 15, 16 years old and sleeping over? Something drastic going to be taken about the people who encourage this thing. CPA already doing a good job.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Right. The caller did make an important point that folks who do harbor these individuals, it's something that is that something that the authorities is having a concern about, more or less?
Of course. And oftentimes the CPA would not go out and express those, but doesn't mean that we're not addressing it. These persons can be charged under the criminal code for harboring a minor.
But usually that is left to the police initially.
Yes.
The police take care of that, and then after, depending on the nature of it, then that's where the CPA pops in.
Right, but it also, CPA can make a report, say this is where we think the child is at, can you assist us in going there? And CPA can say we would like this person or persons to be charged for harboring a minor.
Okay, great. We do have another caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, you're live.
Morning, GT, and morning to your listeners and your viewers, and also your esteemed guests. Good program. I think we'll be learning quite a bit. And it's unfortunate, though, that most of us don't know the laws that governs us. But may I say, one of your guests talked about the community, about it takes a community to bring up a child. That may have been true in the past when we had sense of community. But now it's individualism, selfishness. How do we bridge the gap in trying to reignite the sense of community? I mean, from the Child Protection Agency. The other thing I'm concerned about is the nutrition integrity in relation to children. The kind of thing we feed children, I think we need to protect them against the destruction of their even body system by what is sold to them, what is fed to them, and what is exposed to them. Finally, the other thing about it is that there can be some level of violence of children. I mean, some effect of children being allowed to watch violent activity and the home. How do we address those things? Because to me, all of these need to protect the child. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Respond to the caller in terms of what the caller did articulated to.
What I'll say is that, yes, when we say it takes a village, it still takes a village. It is still relevant. Yeah. It just means that we as a society needs to make the necessary changes and do our part. And that is why, as he spoke to the support in terms of the community level and the different parenting aspect, that is why we're rolling out our positive parenting program, so that we can educate parents, have those discussions with them to let them know it takes a simple thing as telling that child, "Move your stupid self there," or having that child sitting watching a violent movie that influences their behavior and their attitude.
Okay, great. We do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Good morning, Jay. Good morning to your guest.
Good morning, sir.
Your guest spoke about investigating the matter. And I wonder what level of skills or training they have to do that. Because I know of an incident. And let me give you a simple explanation. A young man one day came to a shop. A stranger came into the shop after. The stranger buy what he have to buy and attempt to leave the shop, jump in his car. The young man left and go outside, engage the individual in a conversation. Two of them left. They go where they go. The parent came looking for the child after. Everybody was in chaos because we want to know where that child go. So I asked Mom, I said, "Did that child do that regularly?" She said, "Yeah, you're accustomed doing that." So I said, what you did to that child when you do that? She's like, I'm tired with it, you know. So I'm like, the child came back. So I asked Mom, what did you do to that child? Well, I'm tired with it, I'm tired. So I'm like, all right. That similar child, I engage that child in a conversation to see what's in his head. What's really going on with him? Why would he do things like that? Next thing, the child make an accusation towards me. So I'm looking at the case like, all right, because I see that as a joke. Because, you know, for me, I see that as a joke. But the level of push that agency and the police did, when they bring the child now to see, well, all right, what happened? The child said, look, all right, so I laughed. Well, I mean, the police couldn't laugh because they did the job. They couldn't laugh because they did the job. But it shows that he may have a lot of men in jail, sit down in jail because of children that is, to me, that is they're not correct in their head, and they will make accusations towards people. So that the question goes back to what kind of skills do you have or the police have to investigate this matter thoroughly? Because sometimes it's just word of mouth, and because the child said that, they jump on it and bam, 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 somebody end up in jail. So I have no doubt that they may have a lot of people in jail and innocent from acquisitions from children. Hence that I believe that we need a proper investigating people to deal with these matters, and then the Child Protection Agency can take their course together with the law. I believe that thoroughly. Have a nice day, brother.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. I guess you understand where the caller is coming from. You know, anyone you want to respond to that?
Okay. What I'll say is that every investigation is in isolation, right? And it's always by a case-by-case basis. And often at the times, the expected result that we would like, we don't see it. And that is sometimes because when we go, the community speak among themselves, but they don't speak to the authorities. But they expect that the authorities would know what would happen. How would we know what's actually going on if it is that the communities are not willing to step up? Because they would say all different things. They would post on Facebook, comment under the different posts. But when you go to them, they say, oh, it's not my business, I'm minding my business. But they're still expecting that the authorities can do something.
I guess a fear of confidentiality is also plays an important role.
And the law provides, and the Act, and even the criminal code, all of those legislation provides and protects reporters. That if it is that you would like to make a report and you are scared of your identity, you have a right to report anonymously. You are under no obligation to report your name. You are under no obligation to say, I am John calling from X, Y, and Z. All you need to do is state this is a problem, and that's it.
And you'd like the folks to look into it.
Exactly.
We do have another caller, which may be your final caller for the morning. Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
And good morning to you guests. I just want to, you have some parents, just because they didn't take a belt or a wood or some kind of thing and beat their children, they didn't abuse the children. But simple thing like neglecting, supervise and this child, like make sure the child go to school, the child gets something to eat, a proper place to sleep. All that neglect from children, even up to 5 years. And sometimes in the community, or you may live in a wrong family members, they pick up that slack and do for that child. And then the parents so ungrateful to that person, they'll curse them and tell them everything. So that human, everybody handles things differently. They say, well, I ain't had time with this child now, and they leave this poor child now where the father or the mother don't pick up that slack. What could you do to help this child, because if the parents even know you go to the child protection or the police, when the police go, well, they're dealing with you. So I would like to give a little feedback on what you could do to help this child, because it's a child who's suffering. And lastly,
thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
I want one more thing to say concerning a 6-month-old child. I see it like a former abuse of this child. You have a 6-month-old child, you will buy a tablet and put in front of that child brains not ready for this kind of load yet. I do believe this is a form of abusing this 6-month-old child. You all could speak to the parents, even when the child in belly, they come to clinic and let them know this is a form of abuse for the 6-month child, please. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. That was our final caller for the morning. In response to what the caller meant, I'm not sure with the part for the tablet how that could fit in there. It depends what you're allowing the youngster to watch. Yeah, I understand. So I wouldn't say it's a form of abuse, but it depends on what you're allowing them to watch. That's where the quick comes into play. Anything about what the caller mentioned that you want to speak about?
It's just to note that we work collaboratively with the Ministry of Health. The caller spoke of going to clinic, etc. You do have sessions at the different health centers for expectant mothers on different areas, what to do. And I've known in the past that Child Protection Authority has been part of that conversation. And so maybe from that angle that the nurses can help to speak to those expectant mothers on the dangers of those devices when you're pregnant, or even for the small children. In terms of the smaller child within the community that you indicated, the parent may be reluctant to receiving support, you can call anonymously. You can call. It doesn't necessarily have to be Child Protection Authority. There may be someone within the community who that person looks up to. Let's say there's a church, a pastor, a retired nurse, a retired police officer. You reach out to someone and you engage them. You can also send us a WhatsApp message, 533-6990, and we can further encourage you. I just wanted to let you know, just before, the caller before spoke of the qualifications of the child protection officers. Just to know that child protection officers get continuous training, be it from consultants on island or out of state, from partnering agencies. We just had a training in collaboration with UNICEF and Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. We are qualified in terms of academic as well as skilled, and so what we want is for when we come out there to help us. The situation is, once a report is made, it doesn't matter whether or not our personal mind we think that it is far-fetched or it is not true. We have to, based on the act, we have to go out and investigate all referrals. So bear with us. When we come out to you to ask questions, we have to follow due process. We cannot just see a referral and say, no, that's not true, we're not going. Okay. We can't.
We got to that stage where it's about, we're a little bit over time already, but anything in closing before we take a wrap this morning?
Because we are unable to go deeper into advocating for foster carers, you're out there, you have the urge to care for a child, you're retired, you need that support, you need to give back. Call us 435-0293, or you can send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 533-6990. That is also our emergency number. Okay. We do thank you, and we do thank you for working with us out there in the community as the watchdogs in the community, because we cannot do it alone.
Sabrina, anything in closing?
Indeed. I'll just echo the need for foster care because it is so, like, the deficit is there. So I'm just encouraging persons, do not shy away. This is the opportunity now to do your part. It's not just about identifying problems anymore, but let our mindset be shift in terms of how can we be part of the solution. So please call, message, come walk in the office, let us know if it is that you are interested in caring for a child.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to thank you both once again for being on the program this morning. Interesting conversation, fruitful information thrown out there, and I certainly hope a lot of our listeners and viewers who have an interest in foster care as a final which we throw out, show their interest. But it also you also have to show that you have the capability to, of course, also be a foster parent. I want to thank you both once again. Have a great day. What's left of it? We're going to do this again, right?
Yes. Thank you. Sure.
I don't feel they want to come back, anyway. Have a good one. Hey, folks, that's we're going to take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. Thank to all who contributed, those who are calling, and see if the phones are still going, but that's what we're going to have to wrap for today's edition. Join me again tomorrow. Have a good one, folks. Goodbye.